Well, will you look at that? Guess who was right once again? I'm honestly getting a little bit tired of being right in all of my predictions, but here we are once again anyway. But before we start talking about what's happening with Game Pass, mandatory bi-weekly announcement that Game Pass is doing great, okay? Game Pass is as profitable as it has ever been. It's doing absolutely amazingly, in fact. Do not listen to all of those people who are saying it's clearly failing, it's clearly losing people, it's clearly not profitable enough. They don't know anything. This is what a couple of people told me roughly 6 months ago when I just came out and said, yes, it by every metric it looks that Game Pass is failing. They're not acquiring new users, they're losing old users, and, well, this is gonna lead to inevitable price hike in probably less than a year. That prediction I made was roughly 6 months ago. Yeah, even I didn't expect it's gonna happen this far, and even I didn't actually expect that the price hike is gonna be this absolutely massive. Because you need to understand, and I'm gonna explain how the price thing actually works a little bit later, okay? Listen, I got even paint ready here to go for all of you who are interested in this stuff. So, that's gonna be in the future. But one of the interesting things about the 50% price hike is that it is massive. 50%. The more massive price hikes in these situations are, the worse the situation typically is. Yeah, 50% is massive. It might as well honestly been 100% at this point because impressive. In any case, the news has spread far and wide, and needless to say, a lot of people are extremely pissed. Because Game Pass was still something that had a monthly subscription by tens of millions of people, in fact, even though I personally have always said that Game Pass is an absolute waste of time. The average because it doesn't work out good for the average person, okay? I have said this, and I will say it once again. Game Pass is not good for the average consumer, and here's why. Game Pass previously costed $20. That's 240 buckaroonies in a year. That's 3 or 4 AAA titles nowadays. And the average person doesn't play that many AAA titles in a year. Which means you are paying $240 to rent stuff that you could have bought and gotten more value because at least you own the pixel key to that game. But instead you're now renting. And keep in mind, Game Pass actually does this, which completely blew the value of Game Pass out of the water if you do not know. And this is what Game Pass does. It takes extremely popular games, puts it on instantaneously the day they release, and after a year they take that game off of Game Pass. So if you played a game a year ago and you want to enjoy it again, well, tough luck. It's off of Game Pass forever. It's just not there any longer. So there you kind of go. So now you have to buy it. Yes, you're not only paying Microsoft $20 a month, well, now $30. Not only were you paying previously $20 to Microsoft a month, but you were also forced to buy the game that you wanted to play again anyway, because that's how the system works, which is ridiculous. By the way, $20 for a monthly subscription, that's a Silk Song a month, by the way. That is definitely not value. And people are needlessly, absolutely losing their collective shit over this, okay? First was the console increase, then it was the handheld increase, now it's renting games for $360 a year. It's absolute bananas, honestly. Actually, it's more than 360. Someone did the math incorrectly. It should be... Oh, it is 360. Whoops, I was thinking out a 100% price increase. That's probably happening, and I'll explain why a little bit later. And Game Pass is obviously the best deal in gaming. Yes, this has been alive for literally ever. And people are now canceling their subscriptions. In fact, they are canceling their subscriptions so hard the website you cancel your subscription on has literally gone down because too many people are just trying to cancel their subscription, because subscriptions are a notorious thing because a lot of people don't cancel them, and that's also, by the way, what Xbox is actually banking. You're gonna keep your subscription active, because even if the next month you're not planning to play anything, or you stop playing now and you don't think you're gonna come back next month, well, you're still gonna keep your subscription because, well, habit, and it's just easier to keep than actually cancel it and then renew it. Okay? But this 50% price hike has been so absolutely massive that even your average EA slop sports gamer on Xbox is fucking canceling his subscription. This is devastating. But again, I will explain in paint why does that actually not matter, okay? Listen, it is what it is. The I worked at 7 years at Blizzard is coming up right here now, and boys, okay? And people are obviously noticing it. The fall of Xbox has been happening for at least a decade now. When people are asked what is a good Xbox game, what was their last hit thing, do you even remember? I don't. I can't name any. And then I saw this post, and yeah, it's like Gears of War, Halo, the original Alan Wake, I guess the original Fable. I don't know if Bioshock actually counts, but at this point, does it even matter? Does it count? And then you need to take into account how bad things truly are for Bethesda Gaming, why this price hike was inevitable. Because memes don't happen out of nowhere for these large companies. And the fact that Xbox doesn't have games has been a literal meme for, I think, more than a decade at this point. And it's true. And it's true because Microsoft has spent huge amounts of money trying to acquire studios that make games. One of the more noticeable ones in the past has been they have acquired Bethesda, which means literally bought. Acquired is just more a fancy term for it. For roughly 8 billion. That's right, 8 billion for Starfield, and now an abandoned Elder Scrolls 6 because people don't think that that Bethesda can make any games any longer. And above that, they also bought Activision Blizzard for 70 billion to put Call of Duty on their battle pass because they're obviously not desperate. They are, obviously. You don't take a game that has the highest sales in a franchise and put it on a thing for free when it's a literal yearly slop release at this point because Game Pass is doing good. That's not a thing you do. It's pretty obvious. I think everyone is smart enough to figure that out. Okay, you're not selling one of the biggest juggernaut franchises in the world for free because Game Pass is doing good. No, obviously not. You're doing it because you're kind of desperate. You're doing it because you're kind of desperate. And so Microsoft, aka Xbox, bought the whole of Activision for 70 billion, which is insane because these two things have in combined costed roughly 80 billion, and the return on investment has been a rough zero. A very rough but accurate zero. These companies are failing, okay? Bethesda is slop and everyone knows it. Activision, Diablo 4 is a failure. World of Warcraft is at its lower player count ever. Plus the wokeness in that game is unbelievable. And they don't even have any other games at this point. When you look at Xbox's most played titles on Xbox, it's just the most horrific story ever, okay? We have Fortnite and Roblox competing for the first place, Call of Duty in a general way, Minecraft is usually there, and then there's a bunch of sports games, Rocket League, Grand Theft Auto, and Borderlands, congratulations, it made it to rank 15, which means that it probably has less than 1k active players on Xbox. And this is roughly accurate because we know the 15th place is typically somewhere between 2 and 10k active players at a time. 10k is pretty much never, but on average it's close to 2. Okay, it is insane. You can just see the catalog of absolute slop from what you can play on Xbox. There's a reason it gave up on the console wars, and now it's trying to make your toothbrush into an Xbox. Yeah. And then I found something like this, okay? Listen, the fact that Xbox doesn't have games is wild because if you pause this and look at it, you're probably thinking the same thing I thought at the start when I saw this, that this is fake. There's no way that this can be real. There's no way that up to this point, literally the year 2025, the most popular Xbox releases have all been at the start of the 2000s, with Halo, Halo Combat Evolved, Tom Clancy, Splinter Cell, Fable, Elder Scrolls Morrowind, GTA, and blah blah blah. Well, this is the reality, okay? I just picked the most colorful non-Wikipedia article thing that I could find. But yes, all of them show the same information. This is real. If this doesn't tell you how poorly Xbox is doing, nothing honestly will. Then there's the list of. Actually, this is better, right? Then there's the list. What is this? Ew, disgusting. Large. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay, large is probably better for you boys because I'm not gonna actually read anything. This is just an example. This is the list of Microsoft game studios that Microsoft have bought because all of them have, as you can see, acquired in 2022, 2023. Most stuff Microsoft has bought at this point, they went on a massive, massive spree to acquire unreasonable amount of studios in roughly the years 2022 and 2023. Most of them 2023, by the way. But that's what Microsoft did because they have no games and they know it. So the fact that some people are going to try and say Microsoft has games, bruh, Microsoft has no games. And the fact that they bought, listen, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 giant Canada studios that they actually bought. Sledgehammer, Demonware, Treyarch, Bethesda Games Studios, Montreal, Beanox, whatever the hell that is, Activision Vancouver, that's a Blizzard part. Some of these overlap, but whatever. Mexico, Infinity Ward, United States, whatever this is, this. I clicked on, no, I didn't. I clicked on something, whoops. Look at this. The list of things that Bethesda has acquired in the US starting from roughly 2022. There's a couple of that they got at 2021, but most of them are 2022, 2023. All of this, the Halo Studios, Double Fine, Dreamware, King New York, King San Francisco. Those are Activision, by the way, parts. All of this, look at this, ZeniMax, all of these ZeniMax things for the Elder Scrolls Online. Then it's Europe, France, Germany, Hungary, Ireland, Malta. Malta's a part of Europe, by the way, never forget. Poland, Spain, Sweden, UK, Asia, China, Japan, South Korea. They have bought 20 plus studios in the past 2 years, past 3 years, to create games. And what they fucking got South of Midnight. That's what they got. They got Sweet Baby Inc. bullshit. And again, this was all very predictable. This was all very predictable. Obviously, the biggest factor was when Xbox had a giant release, like for example Indiana Jones and the Vogue whatever. You just needed to go on Xbox, where the Game Pass is the most prevalent, and see if those games are actually hitting even the top 10 most played games. Spoiler alert, I'm pretty sure not a single Xbox release has actually broken the top 10 most played games in the past 5 years. Oh, 3 years should be more precise, but who cares? At this point, even if I say something incorrectly, it doesn't change the matter that the Xbox is fucked, and Game Pass is as dead as bricks. Just that alone tells you how ineffective Game Pass is. Because a lot of those games are day one Game Pass, and no one still plays them, okay? The last time something was in the top list here was Starfield. It's bullshit, obviously. And then we have this, okay? Let me explain the price hikes. This is going to be very simple. You don't need. I'm going to explain this in a very simple way. Why they're actually putting it up for 50% price hike, and why a lot of people canceling doesn't mean anything. Okay, so you have a graph. This graph is one of these things is going to represent price. Let's call it P, and then it's going to be subscriber count. Yeah, let's call it subscriber count. Okay. I'm so unprofessional. Okay. I need probably years to become as good as Blizzard 7 software, but you know, one of these graphs is gonna be a player count, and it's gonna go up to, let's say, here, and the other one is gonna be subscriber count for a Game Pass. Okay, and it's also a graph like this, and on these two graphs there is, let's say that the subscriber count for Game Pass is somewhere here. Let's say that this is 10 million. Okay, this is 10 million people, and we have 10 million people with the price of $20. Now, granted, this can be anywhere. This 20 buckaroonies can be virtually anywhere you want. It can be here or here. It doesn't matter really. What matters here is how these two things interact. Because when you go up for the price, for example, now that the Game Pass is going to be at $30 per month, that means that they're probably not gonna gain new people subscribing to the Game Pass system, which means it's not 10 million, it's more, it's something like 20 million. I don't remember how many people actually use Game Pass. It's actually in the tens of millions, if I'm not mistaken, but obviously, now that the price is no longer 20, it's 30, this is going to change. And needless to say, it's going to go down. And you would think that this going down, let's say for like 7 million, 7 million subscribers to Game Pass, that's bad. But you need to understand that this is a 50% increase. That's right, 50% increase. And, well, from 10 million to 7 million is also a decrease, but this is 3/10, aka 30% decrease. So you need to understand. So this is how these things are supposed to work. As long as you increase the price, and the price increase percentile wise is not same or smaller than the increase in lost subscriptions, you're still making a profit. The profit between 50 and 30 is obviously 20%. So by raising the price by 50%, then most likely, I mean, this is random. I don't know their numbers. I don't know the actual numbers, but we can, for this just test example, we can say that the actual that they're getting a 20% profit. Their line just went up by 20%. So yeah, that's a thing. This is why they do this. This is why this doesn't matter. They can lose people up to 5 million, and then they're going to be breaking even, and that break even probably is still beneficial for them because it's a live service. It requires connection, bandwidth, servers, and all of that shit. So even if they get 50%, they ask 50% more from every single Game Pass subscription, as long as they only lose 50% of their payers, they're still going to be gaining a net positive in maintenance cost. So that's still a bonus for them. Now, obviously, they didn't lose 50% of their customer base with the Game Pass by increasing the price by 50%. So there's still like a winning heart here, honestly, at the end of the day. This is why they do this, and this is why they're not afraid to do this. Also, they know a bunch of people who canceled their subscription are going to probably go back to it. This is why they're not afraid to actually raise the price by something as ludicrous as 50%. But the fact that they raised it by 50% means that It's bad. It's really fucking bad. Okay. Normally, a company is not gonna raise it by 50%. Usually, it's gonna be like, in the 20 to 30% range, for being raised. This is kind of normal-ish, normal-esque. It depends on in the industry, but this is normal. This is, by the way, what I expected, like a 20-30% increase, not a fucking 50 right here. That's insane. Okay, well, pirate software out, I guess, and well, that's pretty much it. 50% price hike for Game Pass, insane. Needless to say, people are not gonna like it. At the end of the day, Xbox is still gonna make more money for it, but this just shows how poorly Game Pass is doing. Most likely, this is not gonna be an end. And if the interesting thing is that we're gonna see if the refunds, the cancellations for the Game Pass subscription are big enough that they could actually lower the price to like $27. Okay, they're never gonna do that. It would be like 25 because it needs to be an even Steven number. But you get the point. I doubt that that's gonna happen, but there's a slight possibility that it could happen at least because it's really bad. And keep in mind, these are already desperate measures, which means Game Pass is gonna do even more desperate shit in the future when this inevitably no longer is gonna sustain their shit. Because keep in mind, Call of Duty, when it's gonna be free on Game Pass, and every retard already has Game Pass. They're gonna lose all the revenue from Call of Duty, which is gonna be insane. So that's going to be a whole new can of worms that they have to deal with, which they probably will not deal with properly. In any case, boys, at the end of the day, Game Pass is shit, don't buy it, and that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, bye-bye. Leave in the comments how I'm wrong, as always, because, oh no, he's just keeping randomly saying words and they come through. It's almost like this was his job before he became a YouTuber. No, that could not be it. Anyway, bye.